Hey, welcome to a new album review, and today it's day 100. Yep, that's right. I have been doing these every day for 100 days now, or well, just over a little over 3 months. And today I thought to celebrate the occasion, I finally would deep dive into a Sleep Token album because up until this point I've only reviewed 1 and 2, the BUEPs I guess that they put out. So never a full album, and well, I mean they have three of them. They just released the fourth one, and this fourth one was released like 10 days ago, I think. It's called Even in Arcadia, and yeah, I just decided, yeah, you know what, let's give it a shot. You know, I like Sleep Token. Actually, it's been one of my big reveals, I guess, in terms of a band. I really loved 1 and 2. I cannot like stress that enough. They were fucking phenomenal EPs. So you know, I was really curious, especially because the reason is why I even came across those EPs because first of all, I obviously people trash talk fucking Sleep Token all the time because but they're no real metal, and yeah, I mean, I guess sure, whatever the fuck you want to complain about, but essentially I was on YouTube and I saw Damocles being released, and I was like, sure, why not? Let's actually like touch on some Sleep Token then. So I started with their EPs, and finally I am here with the full album. And this album was a bit of a, roller coaster because it definitely has a lot of genres. It has a lot of genre fusion, I guess I would say. However, the most prominent one I would also say is by far like hip hop, I guess, sort of like this hip hop vibe to it, which I wasn't expecting. But it was definitely a surprise, let's put it like that. Now, usually I'm not a huge fan of hip hop or anything like that, so I was, a bit taken aback and, maybe not enjoying it as much, especially because like that narrative punch, I guess, that Sleep Token usually have with their song, especially how the song progresses over time and adds more elements to it, is really what I enjoyed. So I was, a bit taken aback, but after listening to the album, I gotta say, first of all, the heavier parts are heavier. Like the heavy parts are just way heavier than they were before. You can actually hear how just it's not that it's murky, but you can hear how fuller everything is compared to the EPs. Like, it definitely gives a much more bigger sense, a much more theatrical, dramatical sense even of what's going on, and even then, like, you do have a lot of other moments that aren't necessarily like hip hop. Again, like I find the entire blend of genres very interesting, and I find that they create a very interesting narrative, a very interesting atmosphere. Definitely, I think that's probably like one of my favorite things about about Sleep Token. It's the I was gonna say Dream Theater, I don't know why, but Dream Theater are nothing like this. But one of my favorite things about Sleep Token is basically just how they approach the songs as sort of these, road that you travel, right? It's sort of like you get little sound here and there, and then you have the singing, and then it opens and opens and opens and opens until the end, right? I find that like really cool. I find that the songs have space to read and everything, and I think here is kind of the same thing, honestly. I think there is a way more pronounced in the EPs, but here is kind of the same thing, and the way they use the genres and blend the genres, like for example Infinite Baths definitely has a lot more metal parts than a lot of the other songs, but the song started as this sort of like actually, was that or the song before? I don't know if it was actually this song or the song before, but it started sort of this folklore type song, right? Sort of these, poppy, pop rock even type song. So I found that really fun, and then it sort of evolved and progressed into more of a metal song and everything. So I definitely do enjoy a lot of that genre blend that they do, because a lot of people like to argue, but they're not real metal. I don't care, honestly. Like, I think that what they're doing is pretty unique, and I think it shows how many people like actually enjoy this, and how many people have been into Sleep Token. It's kind of incredible the rise that they have had in such a short time. Like they have a hit just for the type of sound that they are, because this is the type of sound that shouldn't be as popular as it is, right? It should be like some underground thing that only like a few people know about, and it's an hidden gem that people 10-20 years from now are gonna be like, oh my god, this was so good, actually, like what happened to them, instead that is just like, no, they're getting the recognition they deserve, and deservingly so. Their stuff is, at least again, like I have not checked out the rest of the music, but honestly, I think at this point I have a pretty good picture, the fact that people enjoy them, and the fact that people do appreciate them, and what they're all about, and I definitely do like that a lot. There was a certain, like, at the beginning of the album, a lot of the songs are more on this e-pop side of things, and definitely to me, I was a bit like, I don't know if I necessarily enjoy that, but towards the end of the album, especially Damocles, I think was a song that I enjoyed a lot, and Infinite Paths was also a song that I enjoyed a lot. I think Damocles is probably like my favorite in the album, I would say. I think it's just very unique, and I think another thing that I really enjoy about this band is the aesthetics. Like, the aesthetics are absolutely killer. You look at this album art and you go, oh my, that's really fucking cool, right? Like, they just have this way of immersing you in like their own world, and immersing you in like their own like thing. You know what I mean? They have like this sort of like, it's not atmosphere even, it's just straight up the narrative. It's like you are listening to them, but you just get transported into like their world. You know what I mean? And like their entire thing with like the masks and everything. I know, masks are overrated nowadays, and definitely way too overplayed and everything. But it's just like so cool, the presentation that they have when it comes to everything. And then because of the way, because I think that's probably the best part about Sleeeeep. They have everything to be essentially a band like Ghost, for example, where it's a lot about like the theatrics and the narrative and everything, and instead of that they use all of that to bring you, or to like create this interest in themselves, but then sort of use it as a proxy to be intimate, to be very personal with things, and be very emotional with things. Because a lot of their songs aren't like the super theatrical, like, oh yeah, like we're, Ghost, I don't know what Ghost sings about, honestly, but it's like, it's not like they have sort of this theatrical approach to things where they're just playing a character, right? Like, to me, I have this feeling that, or at least when I hear To Sleeeeep, I feel like when I'm listening to their songs that it's not a character per se. Like, I'm not hearing someone play a character. I'm hearing someone be themselves, but using a character as a proxy in order to express themselves, right? While still being incredibly personal. To me, a lot of these songs are incredibly personal, regardless if they have that character or not. Regardless if you have the Vessel or Two, which is what the Vessel is like the main person. It's the vocalist and everything, and Two is the drummer. And it's like, it could be very easy for them to fall into this sort of, band where it's just like, oh yeah, just theatrics, it's just the presentation or whatever. And yet it feels like they use that presentation in a way to just justify being personal without necessarily needing to be personal. It's like having feelings but not having the courage to speak about them, so you put on a mask in order to talk about them, right? So it's like Sleeeeep, to me, it's much more on that side of things, right? Definitely, look, they have theatrics, they have this presentation nailed down. I think presentation is a huge part as to why Sleeeeep has the following that they have, although I would argue that even without it the songs would still be quite amazing. But again, like, this presentation gives them a different veneer, right? It gives them a different vibe altogether, but even with all of that, I just have this feeling that I'm not listening to someone trying to put on a show to me, trying to put on a character to me or whatever. It feels like I'm listening to someone that created this world in order to sort of justify, or like to better try and connect with you and sort of be personal, and just share how they feel, basically. That's the vibe that I get from Sleeeeep, and the vibe that I get from this album, especially. Like this album, and when you look at a lot of the art, and when you look at a lot of the album titles, right? The album is called Even in Arcadia, right? And a lot of the titles are stuff like Infinite Paths, for example, or Damocles, which is a specific I don't know if it's released religious mythological thing, but I don't know if it's specifically religious or mythological, but sort of you have a lot of these tech or a lot of these titles and a lot of these sort of presentation that tries to almost tell you that they're trying to be Ghost in that regard. Again, I don't know if Ghost are necessarily. I should probably use a band that I actually know, but like Kiss, for example. Where it's like, yeah, it's a lot about the presentation, but the presentation is the show. Whereas here, yeah, the presentation, they use it and they even try to immerse you in their like world and their lore and everything, but it's like they only do that because it's easier for them to express themselves in their own world than it is to express themselves without it, right? Because a lot of the songs and a lot of the stuff I've heard from them definitely still feels very personal, and I think that's why I've been able to connect with it so much, regardless if it's the EPs, regardless if it's this album. Although again, like I would say that this album just is not as much in my wheelhouse, but still, even the pop parts, I guess, I still enjoy them quite a bit. They create something so unique, so theirs, so hard to explain in a way, right? Where, yeah, it's again like they really go really hard on the presentation, but it still feels so personal still, and that is why they're so big, and why I think that and that is reflected in the sound that they actually have, because the sound that they have is very, very unique. And it's a sound that I think a lot of people will remember for a very long time. It's a sound that, look, I still listen to 1 and 2, specifically 2. I listen to pretty much every single 2 song pretty much every day since I've heard it, and it's been like over a week since I reviewed those EPs, right? Actually, probably a little bit more at this point. So it's just a testament to how good their music is and how much it can actually connect with people, because it's unique, it's approachable, but it's very personal, and I think people have really connected with the band as a result, to the point where it's like they don't mind being immersed in this world that the band created, purely because it's through this world that they're being able to relate to, right? That Sleeeeeep is able to be personal, and that as a result fans are able to relate to the band and find it personal. So yeah, as for this album, right now my 5 meters 8 out of 10. I'm gonna be honest, that will probably shift in the future, because I'm not convinced that this is gonna stay an 8 out of 10, given how much I've been enjoying Sleeeeeep for sure. But yeah, that's what I'm gonna give it for now. So yeah, that was Sleeeeep and me rambling about Sleeeeep, and this was day 100 of my little project. Now my goal is to reach day 1000, so we're pretty much 10% of the way. So there's still a lot more albums to go through. I will definitely touch on Sleeeeep again, because again, I've been enjoying so much of what they have been doing. This is honestly a band that I think will stick with me for a very long time. So yeah, with that out of the way, I'll see you in the next album review.